I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Justin Spitzer, the creator and executive producer of American Auto on NBC. The first thing I want to ask you, Justin, is have you ever had a boss that was anything like Catherine Hastings?
I'm trying to think of some of my bosses. Yes, I think I have had. I've had bosses who were very concerned with their own image. I'm thinking of one in particular I had a while back that was sort of more. I really don't think Catherine is that bad a boss. She can be a little political, a little cover your assy. But I can think of someone who was that times 10 I worked for a while ago.
So what made you want to make a show that was centered around an auto manufacturer?
Well, I really just wanted to do originally a show about a corporation. And I mean, about the C-suite of the corporation, the people who are making the decisions, the people who are flying on private jets and doing all the stuff we sometimes romanticize about, but probably has its own stresses. And then I was just trying to decide what industry, and it really came down to three options. It was either just like, at least that I narrowed it down to, and it was like generic widgets, which kind of could represent anything. And that just felt like, yeah, interesting. But in the end, that feels a little broad. And I wanted kind of an all-American, multi-billion-dollar, multinational industry. And I thought it was pharmaceuticals or auto industry. And yeah, just went auto. And then I gave her a little backstory that she came from the pharmaceutical industry.
I was actually about to ask, is that how you came up with the backstory of before she was the CEO of that? She was the CEO of several pharmaceutical industries.
A little bit. Also, both my parents worked in the pharmaceutical industry in different capacities. So maybe I was bringing that in with me. Did
they chuckle at the line about what was the line about how I got this sort of hate all the time as part of the pharmaceutical industry. Why would that be? And I think it was her assistant says the opioid crisis, the gouging of prescription drugs. Did they get a kick out of that?
They were there pre-opioid crisis. They're retired now, but I should see if they were offended. Maybe that's why they haven't called me since.
Man, we are unpacking all sorts of stuff with this interview.
I want to use this. I want to use this for therapy. Yeah.
So I'm curious as to when you were developing the show, was there ever a consideration, because it seems to be such a very popular, a more popular format to use today? Did you ever consider doing it as a mockumentary in the same way that The Office and Parks and Recreation was done?
Yeah, I did. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just talking about that the other day. I mean, I love mockumentaries. I think there's so many advantages to it. I even, when I was getting this pitch ready, when I was also getting the Superstore pitch ready for both of them, I thought like, oh, does this work as a mockumentary? And, what are the kind of stories I want to tell? And you can get really into the weeds and think like, what are the advantages of each? And it felt like for these two shows, it might work better without that. But I certainly would love to do a mockumentary again in the future. And also, when I was first doing the show, I was just coming off The Office. And so mockumentary and Parks and Rec was on. And so I pitched this back in 2013. And I thought like, let's take a little break from mockumentaries. So that was part of it too.
So what made Anna Gasteyer, in your mind, the right choice, in your perspective, to play the role of Catherine Hastings?
Man, she is, she's hilarious. She's also she's a real actress. She's not just a comedian who is going to hit the punchline but not hit the reality of what's going on. And she just felt like, I've always loved her. I think we've all always loved her. And I was also excited because it felt like, oh, if there's the right part for her, she can like pop even more. It just feels like she's waiting there for like that. I don't know if this is it yet. I hope it is. But, in the same way, it always felt like, people knew who Steve Carell was before The Office. And then like all of a sudden he was Michael Scott, and then he was into the stratosphere. And it was like, she is so incredibly talented. And I would love to try to write that part for her.
Let's also hope that you can launch many Emmy nominations and maybe an Oscar nomination in the future, like Mr. Carell did as well.
Absolutely. When you talk to Anna, mention that. Let's get her hopes up.
So you really one of the interesting things about this type of show is seeing how the cast really gels with each other, and it really seems like it came together really quickly. How quickly did the cast gel together when the show was first starting to start its production?
Very quickly. It's and I feel like I had that with Superstore too. And as I saw the cast getting together, I started thinking maybe this is just normal. Maybe actors always just like each other at first because you hear horror stories. I do think in the casting of shows, to whatever extent possible, I want to make sure they're solid actors. I hope they're solid improvisers, but I try to do whatever due diligence I can to also make sure they're cool people and they're people that get along with each other, because nothing kills a set more than lots of antagonism and backbiting and stuff. So I did as much of that as I could, and I felt them out. And each of these actors, I just thought like, this is someone I would also enjoy just hanging out with, and they just right away sort of loved each other. And I think it didn't hurt as much of a pain in the butt as shooting a show during COVID was. The fact that we were all going through these occasional hassles together, that they're all standing in line together every day waiting to get a Q-tip shoved up their nose and having to deal with those crises, probably helped make them gel also.
I'm just curious actually about this. When you got the swab test, what's your reaction when it's up there? Because mine was actually it tickles.
It tickles. When I first started getting them, I would maybe tickle, or I'd have some tears. And now I feel like I could stick a pencil up into the eraser and not feel a thing. I've had so many of them.
It's sort of like you could stick a crayon up there like Homer Simpson and it'd just be lodged up there. You'd have no idea.
I keep my car keys in there now. It's great.
That's a really smart idea, because I'm always worried that, especially when I go on vacation and I leave them on a table, because I don't have to bring my keys anywhere.
It's the fanny pack of the future. It's excellent. Yeah.
So another thing about this show that I think is the whole cast is magnificent, but I do think that it's safe to say that one of the biggest scene stealers on the show is Xmayo as Dory. And I'm curious as to how did you come across her, and how did she seal the deal in getting to play that role?
It was fun. I want to say that was maybe the last role we cast. And I feel like as a producer, you always have that dream of like, oh, I'm going to discover someone who's like so talented and has done next to nothing. And then you get into the process and you're like, it's really hard to find those people. You're not going to do this like open, insane audition. But we'd seen a few people, and then I think someone at the network had recommended her and was vaguely aware of her. And she'd done so little. I mean, she's a New York improviser. She had done some, I want to say some an online film, but she was a writer for The Daily Show. And our casting director put her on tape, and right away it was like, oh my God, this woman is hilarious. And then she flew out to meet on the show, and then we realized we had some conversations, I think while she was on the plane, and we were like, there's no one else even close to her. Like, let's just pull the trigger. So she landed, and her agent said, you got to meet him, but you got the part, by the way. And she like, I've done nothing. And I met her for a cafe at this cafe, and she gave me this big hug. She was just incredibly excited and sweet, and like everything you want when you cast someone who doesn't have a lot of credits. And then when we were doing our first ADR session, which is for people who don't know, when they have to like, you watch yourself and you like re-record some of your dialogue. And she was doing it, and she was like, wow, I've never seen myself in a show before. It was just so we just played some scenes for her. So it's just been great. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up that she's a New York improviser, and you also have, of course, Anna Gasteyer, who comes from the world of improv theater and Saturday Night Live. Was improvisation, after, of course, shooting what was written on the page, was improvisation something that was encouraged in additional takes?
Yeah, it's very important to me. I mean, it's not the most important thing. I've cast people who weren't first and foremost improvisers, and if they're not a comedy improviser, I want to at least know that if somebody throws them a line in a scene, they can react realistically. But yeah, I always look for that, because I always say I like the scripts are a safety net. The jokes, they're the story, and the jokes will be in the end no worse than what's on the page. But I want actors who can improve the jokes, and I also want actors that can put it in their own words and make it feel natural. You know, I write in a way that feels right in my voice, but not always right for other people. And I'm by no means a word Nazi. I think very rarely, occasionally it happens, but rarely does the specific wording of a joke need to be those words in order for that bit to play. Or at least those aren't the jokes I write as much.
So I do want to ask you about Superstore, which just concluded. I think it was 5 or 6 seasons
Yeah.
on NBC. What now that the show has completed its run, what about that show's success and that show's status as an actual aired program are you most proud of in retrospect?
Oh wow, I'm proud of a lot. I mean, I just set out originally to write a workplace show in a workplace I really hadn't seen on TV. You know, I didn't have higher hopes than that. And the fact that over time we got credited with, writing shows about the working class and the challenges they face. And I think it's true. It's just wasn't first and foremost, or that we dealt with issues, political, social, topical issues in ways that didn't feel preachy. And again, that's something else that we did more so over time. I think I was proud of it, and I feel like it would never have happened if I set out to do that show. You know, if you have these lofty ambitions, all of a sudden you're writing morality plays, or you know, I never want to feel like self-important in the writing. And we just wanted to make people laugh and be successful and have some characters people liked. And if at the end of that, and the fact that now that that's done and people could see some more meaning in the show, I'm really proud of that. And I love, you know, it's a self-selected sample, but I love going on to I don't know, the Reddit page or something and see all the people who have loved the show and say like it got them through the pandemic and how excited they were. And you know, you look back at it and it's like, wow, we were just trying to like not get canceled year to year, and I feel like we made a show that I'm really proud of.
So I was talking with you about this prior to us recording, and one of your first jobs in television was actually as a writer's assistant on the groundbreaking show Queer as Folk. I believe it was the 3rd season, the season with the mayoral election in Pittsburgh. And
wow.
oh no, I remember that season very well. What do you feel were the most important lessons you learned from working on a show like that?
Well, I mean, the truth, I worked very hard on that show, but I not in any way a creative capacity. So what I learned was every single night, take the lunch orders, or take the grocery orders, go to the grocery store, stock up, have the fridges stocked the next morning. So that, you know, I wasn't in the writer's room that much. I was helping things. And I mean, it was a great group of people, but I'd be lying if I said there was anything on a writing level I took away from it. But yeah, but I did learn, you know, be cool, work really hard, you know, don't be showing all the writers your specs on the first day. And there's so few writers or people at the lower levels that manage to accomplish that you end up standing out just by being diligent.
And we cannot underestimate the importance of having a stocked fridge.
Oh my God, I was the king of that. Anything they wanted, it was there the next day. I had little surprise jars of Nutella for them. I was if I could ever hire me as a writer's assistant PA, I would be. I'm not going to brag about my prowess as a writer, but no one buys groceries like this guy.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best over this upcoming awards season. And to all of our viewers, please like, share, smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions for this year's Emmys. Thanks so much, Justin.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.